Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. How's everyone doing today? Good morning, Patrick. Good morning, Eric. Good morning, Royal Palms. Good morning, Tony. Good morning, Pavneet. So here we go. Let's see. What's going on this week? We'll cover a number of things, but let's take a look at what's coming up this week because it's backloaded, at least in terms of economic reports. So tonight, not much. I mean, today, not much going on. Chicago Fed National Activity Index and some auctions, bill auctions. It'll actually be interesting to see how these bill auctions come out, especially with the 10-year briefly topping 5% this morning. First times that's happened since 2007. Since 2007. So tomorrow we got the S&P Composite Manufacturing and Services and Richmond Fed Regional Index Wednesday. We got Powell speaking after the cash close, mortgage rates and everything else, and crude numbers. Bigger things come out Thursday with the GDP and the PCE related to the GDP. So these are the advanced numbers for Q3. Remember, there's going to be a couple of revisions after this, but those things, then you get your jobless claims. So Thursday is going to be pretty big for Thursday, and then you get more Fed speak, and then we have then it should get quiet after Friday because we go into the quiet period with the rate hike next Wednesday, not this Wednesday, next Wednesday, but Friday you get the core PCE numbers and consumer sentiment final numbers for October. So Thursday, Friday are big in terms of that. This morning, oil pulling back a bit, but the market really mixed. Only mega cap Microsoft is really up a bit, trying to put in what looks like a little bounce move. Earlier, every sector was negative. Still, every sector is negative with energy leading it lower. But again, it's trying to put in a little bounce move. The rate pause, I should say, is fully baked in for November 1st. And no, there's not going to be a cut. Fear and greed still right on the edge of extreme fear again. So that's where we sit in terms of earnings. Very busy earnings week. Not much going on this morning, Phillips. After the close today, Logitech's really the only thing I'm keeping an eye on. But tomorrow, before the open, we got Coca-Cola, Verizon, GE, 3M, Spotify, GM. After the close, big day tomorrow after the close, Microsoft, Alphabet, Snap, Visa. I guess if you're a Kathy Wood fan, Teladoc. But really, Microsoft and Alphabet, two of the magnificent 7 mega caps. Wednesday, Boeing, T-Mobile, Hilton. Wednesday after the close, you got another mega cap, Meta. You got Meta. So, Thursday, UPS, which is interesting from a consumer and shipping standpoint, even if you don't trade it. After the close, another mega cap, Amazon. And then Intel, one of our favorites, and Chipotle. And Friday is Oil Friday with ExxonMobil, Chevron, Phillips 66. So very busy earnings week coming up. Today sort of quiet, and then tomorrow really kicks it off. Let's see who else is here. Hey, Christoph. Good morning, Richard. Good morning. Thank you for tuning in from Warsaw Options 22. Good morning, Anissa. Christoph, I screened through the sectors, and it seems to me that many triggered fresh long-term sell signals. Yeah, we're getting a lot of sell signals here. Also, let me cover the bigger thing. Remember, I said if we close, this is the lowest close since before the breakout. This is the lowest close now since June 1st in the futures, and on a closing basis on Friday, this triggered an intermediate sell signal. What's interesting about this is many times after intermediate sell signals trigger, you get some kind of bounce. But then you get a rollover. So now we have long-term, which has been still in sell signal. We got an intermediate buy signal back in here. Now it's got an intermediate sell signal. That does not mean you can't have rallies. I will still be watching for rallies. All right? So that's where that sits right now. We're also getting to oversold condition with cycles getting to a bottoming area. That does not mean we have to rally today, but I will be watching for a bounce play. But any bounce play now, let's look at this on a weekly basis. On a weekly basis, you have the first cross the rotation zone. We've got the overhead 50. And it can even bounce, but when you got the overhead 200, you have the daily rotation zone. You're still making. We've officially now traded below the low from October 4th. So we're still making lower highs and lower lows. Don't get caught off guard if it bounces. I will be watching for the next rollover play after a bounce. But that's where that sits. Do we have anything going into the open? Not real. I mean, if we come back down, I'll watch for a little mini bottoming formation down in here. If we roll over into the open, and if we break below this 442.15 area, what do we have down here? Let's see. What do we have? The next key area. Let me just put up the reverse harmonics from this last little. So the next key area, we're right below here, 42.10, 42.15. That's the minor area I'll watch for support. If that breaks, then we're at 41.86, 41.87, where we have some decent support and a decent significant level. Then 41.68. To the upside, besides if we form a little bottoming pattern on the intraday price action, the first key resistance is 42.44. The next key resistance is 42.57. And you see how the double top played out last week. So that's done. I can take that off the chart. Also, I have back on this sloppy weekly head and shoulders. So the next target for that is 41.68, then 4,100. Would I be surprised over the next possibly couple of weeks to see 4,100? No. Also remember, we have major mega cap earnings coming up. So can we get a pop this week with any of those? Yes, we can, because you know how weighted the indexes are to those. So do not rule out sharp and sudden rallies, but I'll be watching for the rollover plays. The NASDAQ, that's personally what I'm watching for. The NASDAQ's got some key, very, very key resistance now at 14,700, 14,715. That's my first little bounce area that I'm watching for. You get above there, I'm going to about 14,876 to 14,900. Now, it just took out this major triple bottom area with today's lows. We're getting to oversold, though, with cycles getting to the bottom. So, again, would not be surprised to see a rally in here. If we do start now coming down based off the most recent reverse harmonics, 14,480, then 14,370. And that's where the bottom of the channel is. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on right there. Good morning, Martinez. Sorry for the no news. Busy week, this work week. Well, that's fine, Sterling. Thank you for tuning in. First thing I'm really watching is 4-hour charts, and then I'll be going to the daily. So, and it's going to be very interesting to see. Again, we have the earnings are the big factors, and earnings have already been dialed down, so they're easier to beat. So we could get some snap rallies off the earnings, and I'm not talking about snap, which is coming up when? Tomorrow afternoon. I'm talking about, one of the mega caps beats, you can get a market reaction. So Dow does technically have a double bottom, long way off for triggering. Would be shocked if it did trigger, but got to be prepared. Got to be prepared. Key levels in the Dow I'm keeping an eye on is about minors 33,190 to 33,200, then 33,360, then about 33,500. To the downside, 32,861, and then a major cluster area, 32,700 area. So that's key. Also remember, we're now pretty far away from the 200, so any bounce up here, we also have the declining rotation zone on the weekly. We're still heading down. We're into a very key support area. That's why I'm also going to be watching. It doesn't have to happen today, but a bounce move and then the next rollover play to slice through there. The Russell, again, getting down to some of this more over. Let me get to the daily, getting down to some of this more oversold area, but into a very key support area. The next major target, should we break down from here, is about 1646 to 1650. Minor, you're going to have to use your minor harmonics, but right about 1670 is a key area just off price action. To the upside, 1693, then 1708. So if the Russell really starts slicing through, to 1650 over the next few weeks, watch out below. Who mentioned the VIX? VIX trying to hold the 22 handle. Yeah, with a VIX looking like it's trying to put in a little top area today. But if this rolls over, I'll start watching more significantly for that bounce play. 21 is now the key area of support. 21. The DAX, which again, back to the next major support area. If this, I'm watching again, oversold cycles at the bottom. Be watching for a bounce in the DAX, possibly back to the daily rotation zone. 15,180 is a very key resistance area. I don't even know if it'll get that high. Next key resistance is about 15,080 to 15,100. But if we get a close below 14,725, I'm watching for eventually to drop to 14,222 area. So that's in the same boat. Also, the notes, we do have a little mini. It's extended on the right-hand side. I'll keep an eye. There's not a good double top on the yields, but on the bottom, on the double bottoms, if we get a close below a close above 106.06, we could see yields pull back a little more, which would lead to a stronger bounce in the market. So I'm watching 106.06 on a 4-hour closing basis. If we start taking out these lows, though, really start to watch out. This is where I'll use the forward harmonics because we got a pausing bar here, 104.30, 104.17. Speaking of the 10-year yield, you see here we had that 5. I was watching the poke above 5. I rounded down the harmonics since 502, and we got up to 5.013, still holding sideways. 4.89 is the 4.9 is the key support. We pull back, it's 4.08. If we really blast through this 5 level, watch out though. Watch out. 10 twos, minus 9 basis points. Getting very close to the zeros again. Flipping up, could flip positive, but I'll be watching short term if these 10 years stall out. Remember, we got the Fed meeting next week. We could see a minor pullback in this before blasting through that zeros. Dollar index still not able to really get through this trend line. I'm more keeping an eye on the euro to see if it triggers the double at this point, because then I'll be watching for that continued pullback on the dollar index. But at this point, the weekly's rolling over and on the way down in the rotation zone on the weekly. So far on the weekly basis, this has really been, based off the sizes run up, a sideways correction. Even if we dip into the rotation zone, it's still, based off the really strong run-up, we're still above the 25% harmonic from this run-up on the weekly basis. Crude, still pull after hitting the first target and that 62.5 area, pulling back. Okay, so it's from the crude double bottom would be the stop raise. And the stop raise on a closing basis, the farthest away would be 84.63. So that would invalidate the rest of the pattern if that hits. But it'd have to slice through the flat rotation zone and the 50 before we even got there, so we'll keep an eye on that. Natty Gas, by the way, did not hold the support. I'm watching 280. 280 for the very key area. See if it forms a bottoming pattern in there after the big quick run up, and then could not hold any key support areas. Gold, possibly a little toppy right here. We'll be watching for to see if it can get above this 1999.7, so roughly 2000, retest 2000, and potentially make a little short-term double top. Other than that, it's still in long-term buy mode. What else do we have? What else do we have? The 10-year JGBs still climbing. Still climbing towards that 90%. The yen, though, still stalling out. Still stalling out just shy of 150. So we're gonna, if that blasts through 150, could get interesting. Also, here's your euro. It's in this channeling flag pattern. Would need the close still above 106.39. But it's sort of a weaker one with daily cycles getting to the top. So I'm keeping an eye on that though. Because it's turning into a weaker channeling one. Pound still has a potential double bottom, but nowhere near triggering for that. What else do we have? We saw Bitcoin mentioned. Yeah, Bitcoin, the double is invalidated. So it's now into a sideways pattern. But if gold starts pulling back, I'll start watching for a little rest in Bitcoin. Remember, we still have the FTX fraud trial going on right now. What else do we have? Before I get to some other things, spiders. Remember, 419.79 is key support. Trading below there, 419.33. So that's hitting the first target on the double. Then we got 417.94, 415.69, and 413. To the upside. I'd flip the harmonics once it flips around, but not using that. 420.17 to about 421.50. Let's see, to 421.19 is the first level, and then roughly about 422.50 is going to be key to the upside. And I'd flip your harmonics going into the open once it opens below the lows from the third. So same thing with the spiders and the Qs. We'll be watching if there's any rally for rollover plays. Key support in the Qs, 351.36. We drop below 351.36. 348.56 is the next major level. To the upside, it's still holding above the lows from the 27th. So 354.16 to the gap fill at 354.60 is key resistance, and then roughly 357. Other stuff. Tesla triggered a double on a weekly basis. So any rallies in Tesla we'll be watching for the rollover plays. The key level I'm watching for in the short term is 163 roughly. 179, then 163. So that is very key, but that triggered a longer term little sell signal with the key resistance now. Even if you were to pull back and fill the gap, would not close back above the 62.5 from this latest sell-off. So, but the key areas I'd be watching for any rally, 218, then back to about 225. NVIDIA, keep an eye on this too. No, we don't have a double, but this is actually a it's halfway decently formed head and shoulders now. And it closed below the rotation zone on the weekly. First closed below the rotation zone since back at last December. But in order to trigger that double, the head and shoulders, needs roughly a close below 404. First cluster, take us back to the 37.5 harmonic with the first target of that would be 354, 328, and then a major cluster, Final target for the Head and Shoulders and the 50% harmonic, 305.40. This has not triggered yet, but we'll be keeping an eye on it. Remember, these don't have to go their weekly patterns. They don't have to go there instantly. You're still going to get rallies. But that's another key one I'm watching. So Tesla and NVIDIA are, Tesla's triggered, NVIDIA is close to triggering. Thanks. The last time the 10-year notes triggered here was a week of July 16, 2007. Well, hold on one second. Would double bottom works? Yes. With the double bottom, what charts like the yield curve? Yes, you can use doubles on the. If we triggered a weekly double bottom with the final target at 0.55. A weekly double bottom on what? On what did you trigger a weekly double bottom on? Oh, on the yield curve. Yeah, you could do this on this. You could still do it on this. That's what you meant. I got it. Got it. Yep, that's what you're looking at right there. So that is valid. So, I mean, I roughly take these to the round numbers, as we've even talked about on the podcast. But look, it's sort of fascinating the way stuff works. I mean, look at the key. If we look at this, look at the key little resistance level there. Lines up magically with the first target, or the second target. The first target, look at it. Here was your breakdown zone. First target. You know, there's weird stuff in the market, the way things sort of work this way. So those are just reinforced first and second targets. Now, so again, to invalidate this, since we're not at the stop level yet, but to invalidate this, look at where the validation point is, another prior key area. It'd have to get below minus 71 basis points again on a closing basis before those were invalidated. So could this pull back easily? Yeah. Could it even pull back to minus 40 basis points? Technically. And the pattern would still be there. Was looking at NOC. Is there any pattern here? Just watch. There's not yet. That's just a mess. I'd be watching right now, based off of where this went, to see if it holds. You have a gap fill left behind. You have the key support level here. If it can hold 477.50 area, even on a pullback. And then I'd be watching personally for any percent beat buy setup or any other continuation buy setup that you may have. Because now this is pretty major support area. Pulled into the 50 to 62.5 and stalling out here. Would not be surprised to see a little pullback and then possibly another launch higher. That's the only thing I'd be keeping an eye on. And you see it on the weekly basis, this area of key support coming in. All right, let's just peek at the markets. Covered a lot of stuff this morning. So, again, if we start breaking below about 42.26, I'll be watching for, again, this area to 42.15 to about 42.20 to possibly form a more significant bottoming pattern in here. And then watch for that. If we break 42.10 and then 40, well, you got to pay attention to 4,200 because so many people key orders off of there. And then below that, 41.88, 41.90. Adobe daily double top. That's the last thing. Adobe daily double top. That is a daily double top. Let's just check it. Yep, check it. Before you're not doubting you, Christoph, I have to check it for my own stuff. But you're spot on with these. 531 roughly, 525, 518.50 and it is triggered as of Friday. So, and that could easily take it back to where would that take it back to? Still slightly lower probability since against the rotation zone, but that breaks down, yep, triggered on Friday. Those are the key targets. And interesting enough with Adobe, this could roll into, now this could roll into a bigger double on a weekly basis at some point. It has to get through the weekly rotation zone, and this daily double takes it into the weekly rotation zone. But longer term, it could trigger, might never trigger, but it could theoretically, you get the weekly close below about 498.70, could trigger an even bigger topping pattern. So thank you, Christoph. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. And I will see everyone tomorrow. Bye for now.